Okay, so gathering attention to the body. I think we'll do a primal elements meditation with a little bit of a twist. First of all, connecting to a sense of safety, being supported on the earth, by the earth, being held in a safe space around you. Resting into the inner refuge through the path of the breath. Respectfully recalling the final words of the Buddha, to be a refuge unto oneself. Feeling the earth below, feeling the body rising out of the earth as the earth element, and the great earth spreading out in all directions around you. Considering the entire body as earth element. Even those elements that can be conceived of otherwise, whatever is material, has a sense of form, matter, earth element. Even the fluids and everything else in the body. Entire body as earth. And there's a practice that's not always done, but it's done sometimes. Excuse me. Returning the elements. So we'll come to that at the end. But first we'll go through all four primal elements. So we survey the body as the earth element. You might find areas that experientially feel much more earthy in terms of solidity. And quite naturally, a lot of these areas feel more solid, compacted, contracted because of tension, because of stress. So a lot of old, unresolved material. So we're not going to try to get rid of any of that, but just as we shift from earth element to water element, just imagine the water element as a kind of healing liquid, a balm, B-A-L-M, balm, an ointment of some kind. And just invite the contracted, solid, maybe even painful areas of the body to be soaked, to be washed and softened and cleansed by the water element. Not trying to do anything, not trying to get rid of it or even change it, not having any expectation. Just perceiving the entire body as water element, whatever extent you can. And just notice if this shift results in a shift of your sense of embodiment. As I was saying last week, I believe, the whole refrain in the suttas about through this training, through this practice, one perception fades, another perception arises, and this is the practice. This is the training. So we know that there's water element in every cell of the body, including the bones. Allowing the sense of the body to become more fluid, softer, less contracted, less solid. Softening, softening, releasing whatever can be released. Without an agenda, without expectation. Just receiving the perception of the body. the internet today is unstable for some reason, so um, hopefully that'll be the last interruption, but I can't guarantee it. So we were shifting from the water perception, the body as water, the body as the fire element. Anywhere that there's friction, internal or external, is fire element. Anywhere there is warmth or coolness is fire element. So we can attune to the body as this field of energy, even more subtle, even more spacious and undefined than the water element. The energy of life and vitality throughout the entire body. And then to the air element. The air element mainly known through the movement of the breath. The rise and fall of the chest, the diaphragm, the belly. The rhythmic expansion and contraction of the entire torso. A feeling of ease as we feel relief from the in-breath and the expansion, the opening, uplifting of the heart. And then the release and letting go of the out-breath. Easeful breath throughout every cell of the body. The body as breath, as air. In Tibetan, they speak of the wind element as opposed to just air. So in moving from earth to water to fire to air, it's a gradual softening and shifting towards formlessness, spaciousness. And now the practice of giving it all back. Because as the Buddha said, No phenomena whatsoever should be construed as I, me, or mine. And that very much includes the phenomena we call the form body. And coming back to the earth element, body as earth, and imagining and intending to return the earth element to its natural owner, nature, to the great earth herself, to the soil and the trees and the grass and the flowers, the rocks and the mountains. Returning earth element to earth. Considering oceans, rivers, streams, rainfall, clouds, mist, fog, offering, returning the water element to its natural source, giving it all back. And just resting in the knowing of it, the awareness itself. Picking up the sign of the sun, the image of the sun's energy, fire, the fire element, and all of the manifestations of the fire element that we know on earth. However, warmth and fire arises. Abiding in the knowing, and yet offering the fire element back to its natural source. Although it's hard to pick up a sign of air, since it's not visible unless it's polluted. And think of the movement of the trees and the wind. We certainly know that the air element is there all the time. It's like the space element. And I'm just soberly reflecting on the fact that one day, sooner or later, we will exhale and there won't be an inhalation. So offering the air element back to its source. We do it on every out breath anyway. Now we're visualizing returning the entire body as air element. To air, to all breathing things. Again, resting in the knowing of it. And now putting it all back together. Feeling your feet wherever they are resting, on the earth or underneath you, or if you're lying down, just where they are. Feeling your body connected to the earth, to the contact points. And to tune into the skeletal frame of the body, holding the body upright or whatever position you might be in. Tuning back into the solidity of the body, the earth element of the body. I'm just making a note that there are times in our practice where it can be quite helpful to take up one perception or another. We're feeling too spacey, like maybe all air element. Might want to come back to the perception of earth and solidity. We're feeling too compacted, too constricted, too solid, too heavy. And bring in more fluidity of the water element or spaciousness of the air element. I'm feeling cold and disconnected. Bringing in some warmth of the fire element. Or if we're feeling lacking in energy, finding various combinations, air element, fire, and so on. Ajahn Lee, one of Thanissaro Bhikkhu's main teachers, used to say that meditation is 80% imagination. So we want to make good use of our imagination. It's not, a lot of times it leads us astray and leads to constant proliferation, but it can be a real skill that can be developed to help us along the path. So returning again to a sense of inner and outer safety. Connected to where you're sitting. Feeling the space behind you, in front of you, to the right and the left, above and below. And just returning to this meditation hall, opening your eyes when you're ready. So we weren't sure until kind of the last minute that, thank you, Emily, what was happening today. So, but as it turns out, last week I had a whole bunch of notes on bridging Dharma and Dhamma. So Mahayana teachings and Theravada teachings. And as it turned out, we didn't get much further than the dispute, which is not really a valid dispute, and as far as I'm concerned, and as far as a lot of other people are concerned, between the bodhisattva concept and the arhat concept, that they're actually pointing to the same thing, the same quality of being. So I still have a lot of notes from last week, so we'll continue with the same theme. So I think I've said sometime over the past couple of weeks that it's good to have a look at, the Buddha had something like 42 or 44 different words and phrases and epithets for nibbana or nirvana. And it's a nice reflection to go through them and see that a good percentage of them have to do with safety and refuge. In fact, safety and refuge are two of the words that he uses sometimes to be synonymous with nirvana. And if we look closely enough, we can see a lot of this in Mahayana too. It's not exclusively a Pali perception or a Theravada perception. So I'll just read one sample. This is from a Chan Master Kuei Shan, 771 to 854, his birth and death years. And Kuei Shan says, over the ages you have chased myriad objects, never once turning back to look within. Let your mind merge with the hidden safe harbor, investigate its subtleties, determine its most profound depths, and realize its true source. So we have safe harbor, the hidden safe harbor, hidden within. So once again, it's not something that we have to go out and find. Wei Shan is clearly saying it's something that is, as it says in the suttas, the Dhamma here and now, available here and now, visible here and now, apparent, self-evident here and now. However, we translate those words after, the Dhamma here and now. And we sometimes hear that nibbana eventually becomes an object of meditation. I'm not sure about this, but I think that without falling into duality again, the way it becomes an object of meditation is by resting into, stepping back into those qualities. So we're subjectively experiencing them. That's how we're investigating them, as opposed to trying to turn nirvana into another object, which then it is no longer the actual refuge. We've just conceptualized it, and it just becomes another phenomena of the mind, and not the experience of whatever term we want to give to the heart, the chitta, the consciousness, released from self-view, released from the three poisons, released from the uh, underlying forces, the uh, anusya, and the hindrances. So then there's a Zen saying that I don't have the exact um, authorship of. I don't know its origin, but a lot of the Zen sayings can sound, I mean, they're very pithy, but they can almost sound like extremes. And that's kind of the Zen way, is to, really emphasize something in a sometimes almost outrageous way to get our attention, to demonstrate how important something is. So this one is a particularly, could be pretty problematic one these days. The saying is, the plague of identities and reference points. So, at this time when everybody seems so focused on, really solidifying their conditioned identity, and really attached to it, this phrase might even seem offensive, but it's not. It's not a foreign teaching of Buddhism. It's one of the Buddha's basic teachings, is that if we place our sense of identity in any conditionality whatsoever, we're going to suffer. So I see that Claudia is here. Claudia, did you want to translate?
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't aware of the exchange of the hour. Yes.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I don't think there's no point right now anyway.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I'll just stay for the
Okay.
talk. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So it's not just a Zen short phrase, because if you go through the Pali Canon, there are countless places where the Buddha points out what, he doesn't point out exactly what identity is, but he points out quite clearly what it's not. A couple of good examples, there are many suttas, but I think of the honey ball sutta, or the ball of honey sutta, is one, which is on the surface about taking fixed positions. But it also talks about how taking fixed positions then results in a sense of fixed identity, which is going to cause conflict between you and others with a different sense of fixed identity, and intellectual positions and political positions and all the rest of it. And also, one of the big ones is the six sextets, which is Majjhima Nikaya 148, I believe, which goes through every aspect of our experience, from sense contact through the sense doors, all five khandhas, everything, bit by bit by bit, to show that there is not a self in any of it. that sutta takes about an hour to read, and it's sometimes said that if you're studying that sutta, you should actually have it read to you and then meditate on it, or listen to a recording of the sutta. And also, thinking of this plague of identities, I think of Bhikkhu Bodhi saying, the self is a cognitive ghost, forever unverifiable in our direct experience. So the real question is, when are identities and reference points plagues, and when are they not? If you want to see a plague of identities and reference points, just join an online Buddhist discussion group that is not well moderated. They show up pretty quickly, and of all places, you would think that that's where it shouldn't be, but unfortunately, having belonged to a number of them over the years, I'm a member of a couple, but only ones that are well moderated and where people are polite and considerate and committed to engaging in right speech, which is not always the case, I can tell you. So another example from Theravada is from Ajahn Sucitto. So he's talking initially here about touching the places where we're hurt, where we've been hurt, psychic places in the body where the body is holding old, unresolved hurt, grief, and trauma, and so on. So he says, we bring our dispassionate awareness to bear upon how, where, and when the hurt really is. And this takes us into a heart that always tries to find a place within the five aggregates, that wants to be a solid personality, wants to feel comfortable, wants guarantees, wants something to hold on to, but just can't get it. Nothing really sticks. And isn't this true? Isn't this the inclination of the ego mind, is always trying to find, well, if I just get this, and if I just do this, and if I rearrange that, so we're always looking within the five khandhas, the sense fields, the world of samsara, trying to find a place where we can settle. And there is no such place. And he says, but isn't that good news? When we understand this, we can stop suffering over being the misfit, and we can shift our attention and intention beyond being a thing, having a position and going places. We can witness our life with wisdom. Then there is the realization of that which is knowing and insightful, and which brings forth a response of compassion rather than one of frustration. And that shift is the essence of liberation. So I think And a couple of weeks ago, I was talking about shifting from becoming to being, simply resting in the being, the beingness, the knowingness that's already here, and watching when the mind moves out of that to become a something, to become a someone. Like Ajahn Chah said, don't become a Buddha, don't become an Arahant, don't become a Bodhisattva, don't become anything. Why? Because whatever you become, you must unbecome. It's all going to come undone. It's another fabrication. I want to find the place of the unfabricated to rest in. There's a lot more there, but I'll move on to another example. So here's one example from from the Pali Canon of an Arahant is about to be killed. Bandits had surrounded an Arahant and were closing in to kill him, but then stopped when they were struck by how serene and unmoved he was. They asked the Arahant why he wasn't afraid, and he replied, "It does not occur to me that I was or I will be. All constructions come to an end. So what is there to lament?" And then there's the story of an ancient Mahayana monk. I think it was a Zen monk or a Chan monk. Was accused of some kind of infraction or crime by a feudal lord. And he was sentenced to death by beheading. So the feudal lord gave the command for the execution. And just as the executioner raised his sword, the monk looked at the feudal lord, and said, "You might as well try to cut space in two." And I forget the upshot of that. This is an old story from Zen years ago. I seem to recall that uh, in one version of the story, anyway, the feudal lord stopped the execution because this person was so fearless. So obviously, those are high bars. It's not easy to be so not identified with the body that you could say to bandits, "Okay, take your best shot," or to the executioner. But it points to a state of mind, a state of being that is possible to achieve. There's a modern story of a Tibetan master. This is fairly recently, like within the past decade, I believe. And he was actively dying in hospital, and his disciples were gathered around him. And they were obviously grieving. And at some point, the master kind of roused himself out of coma. And he just said, "It's okay. Nothing happens. Nothing happens." So what is that place where nothing is happening? As the Buddha said, where there's the ending of arising and passing. Within this fathom-high body lies the world, the arising of the world, the ceasing of the world, and the way that leads to the cessation of arising and ceasing. Where's that place? Nothing happening. And I recall there's a saying in Theravada that for an arahant, there is no future. Well, what does that mean? Why is there no future? Maybe we can get an answer from, we'll turn to Mahayana again. The sixth Zen patriarch, or the sixth Chan patriarch, Huineng. And this is a fairly recent translation of a portion of the Platform Sutta as well. The translation was put together by a few monks at City of 10,000 Buddhas, I believe. And I'm not sure, I heard it in a talk by Ajahn Amaro, sorry. I'm not sure whether he assisted with the translation or not, but anyway. So it goes, in this moment, there is no thing that comes to be. In this moment, there is no thing that ceases to be. Thus, in this moment, there is no birth and death to go beyond. This moment is absolute peace. And although it is just this moment, there is no limit to this moment. And herein lies eternal delight. I'll just read one more quote from Ajahn Suchito and then we'll stop the talk. Speaking of the here and now. The here and now that offers rest and peace is not a thought, not a sensation, not a state of mind. These things, which we customarily mistake to be the real business, continually defy and tantalize us with their scintillating changeability. Right here and now is the awareness that takes embodiment as location, empathy as felt relationship, and silent attention for clarity. Embodied awareness, one that sees clearly and doesn't hold on or reject. This is a lasting refuge. Everything you experience passes through this gate. You can't have it, you can't name it, you can't get it, and you can't get rid of it. You can only rest into it. And this is why it gives us such ease. So as the Buddha said, be a refuge unto yourself. And I'll stop there. If there's no discussion, no immediate questions, then I've got a few more things I could read, but Lee, yes.
Hi, Brad. Would you mind, sorry to do this, but I couldn't catch all. You were reading the Ajahn Suchso passage, and he said, that is liberation.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what that phrase again?
So he said that that's the essence of
Yeah,
liberation or something like that. So let me find it again. Yeah, that shift is the essence of liberation.
the shift from,
Okay, so let me go back to it. So we stop trying to become something. We recognize right at this moment, there is this knowing awareness. We start resting back into that. It's like I was saying last week or 2 weeks ago about about 10 years ago or so, and I was having some communication with Ajahn Amaro. And I was saying, in actual practice, we back our way onto the shore of Nibbana. It's a letting go, releasing, backing up, letting go, releasing, backing up. The way we tend to teach it, or the way a lot of things get translated, it looks like a constant attaining, going forward, going forward, going forward. And so, again, what Ajahn Suchito is saying here is that, we all have this feeling of being, not good enough, a misfit, I don't belong, unworthy, all that. And we keep, as he says, we keep going into the five khandhas to try to fix that.
yeah.
If only I do this, if only I do that, if only I get this, if only I get that. And then he says, it never works. And then he says, but isn't that good news? It's good news because then we stop doing that. We realize the futility of that, of trying to find our identity in stuff that is like changing nanosecond after nanosecond. So we back up into this, what is it that's not changing? And not to reify it, not to try to turn it into something else, but just trust it. Even though, as he says in the other quote, we can't name it, we can't have it, we can't get rid of it, but it's always there. And once we touch into it, and that becomes our new familiar, our new go-to, like the Buddha said, what the mind ponders becomes the inclination of mind. And Ajahn Suchito kind of makes that a little pithier and just says, the mind seeks the familiar. The problem is we've been seeking the familiar of our own broken hearts, of our own,
Over and over. Yeah.
Yeah, we keep going back to that. So part of the work, as I see it, is to cultivate a new familiar, one based on silence, spaciousness, peacefulness. And as we become more familiar with that familiar, and it starts to take precedence, that becomes our refuge. We don't have to understand it. We don't have to name it. We don't have to define it. We just know that it's there, and we just keep resting back into it. And then, like Ajahn Mun says, I take up the Dhamma of ease.
Mm-hmm.
and we begin to follow the path of that ease. Kind of like Thich Nhat Hanh said, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah, that's
And
beautiful.
I can send you the full quote. I think I've used it in a lot of talks before.
No, it's very helpful. Thank you. Like that process
Okay.
is going on in me, but I didn't recognize, like those give me the words for it. So like I'm thinking I'm slacking off from meditating so hard like I do, but it's actually I'm just more peaceful. So
Yeah.
it's like shifting how I see it, right? Like you start to recognize after a while, just be peaceful, just be aware, just to stay where you are,
Yeah.
thinking I'm
I,
not doing the practice, but it's actually shifting on me without me trying, right?
I think I also said a couple of weeks ago is I'm starting to move from thinking in terms of attainment to attunement,
Mm-hmm.
just tuning in.
Like it's
Tuning
already there. It's already
in.
there, but I was chasing it. You know,
Yeah,
it's like, you know, yeah.
tuning into the wholesome qualities that are always present if we can trust them, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Yes, Damon.
Hi, thank you for the teaching. Hey, I want to try to bring this down to earth, because when I walk past my teenage son's very messy room, the irritation arises, and quickly the identity of me, the annoyed father, clinging to that. But at the same time, someone has to deal with the room and relate to the son. And, the philosopher Jay Garfield has suggested that instead of a fixed self, we should think of ourselves as a person, meaning a changing pattern of body, mind, roles, and relationships that still acts in the world. So my question is it fair to say that while there's no permanent self, there is still a conventional person functioning in these situations like this? Someone who
I,
still has to decide how to
yeah,
respond and maybe even clean the room?
good, good point. Good point. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we still, um, yeah, like we're not, we- oh, I'm getting feedback here. I think we got, well, thanks, Lee. Um, yeah, we want to be careful, but we're not trying to annihilate personality or sense of self. And, um, but we get to a point where there's a qualitative difference where, again, if our new familiar becomes a place of, say, metta, say we're really practicing sincerely abiding in metta. So hopefully, as these conditioned energies come up, frustration, anger, grief, sadness, rage, whatever it is, as they come up, we can address them from a different place. One of the most valuable things is just the pause. Before those words come out of my mouth, can I pause a moment and just, may I be well, may you be well, and then see what comes out of the mouth or what action needs to be taken. So
So
yeah,
you agree that there's
it,
some
it,
usefulness to say we're still not a self, right? There's no self here, but there's something else here, and I'm suggesting we got to give it a name. And I'm suggesting the name would be I'm a person playing roles in the world.
you, you can do that if it's helpful and if it works for you. But I think um, ultimately what happens is a congruency comes where you don't even have to say that, because it's much more spacious to be abiding in the mystery of not knowing, of not knowing the who and the what, of just being. If we can find that space that Ajahn Suchito is talking about, that we can't name, we can't have, we can't get rid of, and we find that door to ease, and we become more familiar with that, we don't even have to become, we already know we are a person, we are being, and we can rest in that being without pushing into becoming all the time. It's like, so, for example, at a very nitty gritty level, you've got sensations coming up in the heart space, rising to the throat, and it's anger, right? So you just pause, recognize it for what it is, see if you can go to metta, relax it and release it a bit, and then respond in a more appropriate way than if we just react. And this is part of what I've been working with for years, and I talked to Ajahn Suchito about it, that selfing, like say you're just, everything's fine, you're feeling contented, sitting in a coffee shop or something, and then all of a sudden something happens that triggers something in you that's anger. You don't necessarily have to become an angry person. There is that pause, right? But again, as Ajahn Suchito says, if I don't know it, I become it. So it's when we're not mindful enough to feel what's going on in the body, to feel what's going on in the heart space, then we get caught. We get sideswiped by our own unresolved stuff, because before we can even pause, it's already coming out of our mouths or our actions in the world. So that seems to be the key. Whether you call it a person or, do a kind of Mahayana, my true self as opposed to my ego self, to me, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is, where is the heart abiding? Where's the chitta abiding? Is the chitta being pulled, the heart being pulled into the world by its own unresolved stuff? That's the real crux of the matter.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. We need to use language, and you don't want to get into spiritual bypass or anything like that. And there's a time to just say, you got to clean up your damn room. Like this is not acceptable. This is not,
Right. Yeah.
Not a respectful way, So
Yeah.
yeah.
But I am still, I still feel I am still a little bit, let's just say, in a role at that point. I wouldn't even like to have to say, clean up your damn room. But, I live ultimately and conventionally. And conventionally, I'm in the world, and this role is decided for me. I'm a dad. The society has rules for how dads act. I have to conform to a lot of those rules. I have to, like you said, I have to kind of say something which is still like the authoritative dad or something, and that's okay. Perhaps you seem to be suggesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do have to take actions and make decisions, and it all depends on where it's coming from. Where it's coming from.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you, Brad.
Yes, Claudia.
Yes, thank you, Brad, for the talk. I was wondering, in your experience, how do you start navigating this process of finding this island onto yourself when you have been very strongly traumatized and you don't feel safe in your body and your nervous system?
Well, as I said, at the beginning of a retreat a few years ago, I said to a Dhamma brother who was the guiding teacher, I think I'm finally starting to get a handle on a 70-year post-traumatic stress disorder. So, so how do you do it? You do it by finding at least the tiniest thing that gives you a sense of safety. And you start there, and you start expanding it from there. And again, as I was saying a few weeks ago about touching the pain, touching the unresolved places, just this much, that principle of just this much, and knowing when you're starting to flood. So, Amatanasati would say, you find your window of tolerance and you keep coming back to that. So you don't push too much into it. You don't take on too much. You don't go deeper than you feel willing to go. And over time, the window of tolerance starts to expand. Okay. Oh, I felt that unresolved grief last time, and I'm still here. Yeah, I think I'm ready now to touch it a little bit deeper for me. And so much of it has to do with the first foundation of mindfulness of the body, and bringing the warmth, maybe even the fire element, the warmth of the breath, breathing into it, being able to move from felt sense to felt meaning. So the felt sense of it could be anything, could be clenched, could be frozen, but the felt meaning of it that we've taken away from it is, maybe it's like, I'm broken, I'm not worthy, I'm a misfit, I'm damaged goods, I'm unlovable, I'm, those kinds of things. So sometimes we might want to work with that, doing a lot of metta practice to start to shift those energies and those stories, then come back to the felt sense in the body, bring loving kindness to that, compassion to that. And it's a very delicate balance, which is why I think my very first talk, I was talking about how Amatanasati said, meditation is not always enough. Especially if there's deep, significant trauma. When I did my grief and trauma training, I shifted my whole practice, because I was in Zen practice at the time, and I was doing a certain kind of practice with a certain kind of energy. And once I started doing felt sense work, that became my meditation. I started going to the felt sense in the body of not only the stuff, but the felt me sense in the body, because that felt so awful, right? And that's been 20 years, and I ain't done yet. I'm still working on it, right? So, yeah, just, and trusting, finding something that you can use as your grounding and as your safety. And I mean, in some cases, we really have to learn to reparent ourselves, look at, again, Amma would talk about attachment repair, because we have such conflicted, broken attachments or ambivalent attachment styles or whatever that we've grown up with. And no matter how much meditation we've done, they can still cause us a lot of suffering in our life until we, somehow heal those deep wounds. Yeah. As I said a while back, one of the things that sold me on Ajahn Suchito as a teacher was early on, either I read something he said or heard it in a talk, when he said, most of us come to this practice already shredded. And I thought, that's the teacher for me. Like, he talks about our psychic bodies being shredded. We've got all of these holes and strands because we've never been able to feel our wholeness or experience our wholeness. So we're, go ahead. You were going to say something, Claudia?
No, thank you. No, it makes total sense, and it helps me put everything in order in a way that I think, yeah, the answer is start working with the body. Like suddenly something, everything I have studied make more sense. That yes, the place to start is in the body, in this, and then all these Tibetan practices, that not all of them, but there are some very interesting in this, and how do you call it in English? You embodied, these embodied practices of feeling the body, or the guru yoga practice, but taking it out of the whole system, that they have all these beliefs and everything, but the practices themselves are very interesting to start getting into the body. And also this practice of the yoga sensitive trauma, maybe you heard of that practice. Yes, like to start from that space, and then and go through those wounds. You have to go through them.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of good resources out there. There's a good book, Trauma Informed Mindfulness is a good book. Yeah, and there are people doing a lot of good work in that area. And for years, it was pretty much ignored. And people were told, the the past is the past. The past is gone. Stop bringing it up. Well, yeah, the past is gone, except when it's not. Except when, as I said, the chitta is timeless. So when all of a sudden you're triggered by something that echoes something that happened when you're 9 years old, the chitta's 9 years old again. And those same defenses or reactivity start to come out until those energies are resolved, and whatever that wound is healed.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there's this spiritual bypassing, no? That you think you're all there, but you're not at all, no?
Yeah. Spiritual bypass is well, just get on with your practice. Don't worry about that. That's dead and gone. Except it's not dead and gone. It's very much alive in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just a memory. It's it becomes a being.
Yeah.
It becomes an abiding. We end up abiding in that old shame or fear or rage or whatever. And we either just stay there and suffer and not do anything, or we do something usually inappropriate in trying to defend ourselves from it, or get rid of the anger by taking it out on someone else or something like that. And that's not wholesome for helpful or healing for either the person we're dumping it on or ourselves, right? So
yeah, and then the other, just the last thing, over at identifying it with it, like if you were the trauma, that's also like an issue, or not, or ignoring it, right? So it's like this where to stay in the middle.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
The middle way. We don't want to. We keep telling ourselves, I am this person. I am this broken person. I am this misfit. I am this traumatized person. We're just retelling that narrative, and we stay there, as opposed to it. It's like, you get a definition from a doctor that you are this, you are a major depressive or something. It's like, oh, I'm a major depressive, as opposed to, I'm somebody who experiences deep depression sometimes. It becomes your whole identity, and then that is also not helpful. Then you're back in, I'm the misfit, I'm no good, I'm broken, and there's no way out. So we find that little doorway of peace, and just keep opening, and trusting it. So I think we're at our time, Damon. Sorry. Dana, would you like to give the...
Yes. Thank you for a really nice talk. I felt like the practice of giving and receiving has always been a part of Buddhism and continues today. Giving to Dassanaya Buddhist Community supports Dhamma, our guiding teacher, our guest teachers, and the physical location at the vihara. It allows us to continue to offer Buddhist teachings in support of the awakening of all beings. Our support pages are on the website under the support tab, donate, volunteer, offer materials. Thank you very much for practicing here today.
We'll just do a little closing, offering of merit. Whatever merit our practice here today may have generated, we now share with all suffering beings. especially beings suffering the pain of war, disease. May we and all beings cultivate the causes and conditions for peace and happiness, and abandon the causes and conditions that create suffering and distress. May all beings be free of suffering. May all beings be at ease. May all beings receive the blessings of my life. Thank you, folks. Be well, everybody. I'm assuming Dhamma is back next week, so after retreat. So enjoy.
God.
We'll see you all soon. Take care.
Thank you, Brad.
Thanks,
Be well.
Brad.
Bye, folks.